Friends, thank you so much for tuning in. You know how much we appreciate it. Guys, what you're about to hear is one of the most powerful interviews I've ever done, and I'm telling you, there is synchronicity, serendipity, and divinity happening here today because my two guests were scheduled prior to me learning about this latest John Podesta interview, in which he's actually forced to talk a little bit about Pizzagate, Comet Ping Pong, and fake news. And I have two very important guests on the line that are going to help us break down some breaking news as we're having this discussion today. We have Pizzagate Angela from Twitter. I love her Twitter feed. You can follow her at NotManipulated7. And Michael from the P.O. Colby YouTube channel, who was brought to my attention from an Anthony Antonello broadcast in which Michael broke down this Ashton Kutcher saving the world from pedophiles clip. We have so much to talk about. But first, Angela, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's a thrill to have you. And Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, guys, it's my absolute pleasure. And just out of the gate, I just absolutely have to play this bombshell clip for you today. This is breaking news. John Podesta squirms when he talks about Pizzagate and James Alefantis. Let me play this clip, and then we'll get your reaction.
Fake news is another, just as we've learned about just how crucial technological infrastructure is to the integrity of our electoral process. We've also learned that technology has created a whole new news ecosystem, one in which this phenomenon of fake news has exploded. Donald Trump uses the phrase fake news essentially to apply to any story he doesn't like or any poll that he disagrees with. But you had a different experience of fake news in a purer sense of what fake news was. I just want to talk about, just tell us about that. When fake news became part of your life in the course of the campaign, when you started noticing it and what you did about it.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's subterranean in large part. It shows up in the Facebook news feed, but you don't see it because it's not, if anything, it's being debunked in the mainstream media. Right. So in those sources of news, it's you don't touch and feel it as much as maybe you'd imagine. But it's sinister. And it's a kind of vile stream that's running under the ground.
I'm going to pause it right there. Can you guys hear that okay?
Yes. It's making me mad.
Yeah, it should make you mad. And you know who else was maddened by it? Actor James Woods, who tweeted out today, and I quote, "Put more walnut sauce on your pizza and shut up, Skippy. You're lucky you're not in jail yet. I stress, yet." And that was real James Woods tweeting to John Podesta. So John Podesta is saying that what's going on here behind the scenes in what Cliff High and I are now describing as the real media, the free media, John Podesta is describing as sinister and subterranean. I'm playing the YouTube video from Level 9 Media's channel, and we'll listen to more of this clip. But Angela, your reaction so far?
Oh, first it was a gag. It was an instant gag reflex, and then it was complete anger hearing that. I mean, I'm actually really mad right now. First of all, yeah, his name is Skippy, and he abuses children. It is true. I don't care. Everybody needs to look into it. This is sick. How can they dare call media sinister? Let me tell you what fake news is. It's 90% of our media being owned by 6 corporations. 6 disgustingly owned corporations that determine what news is, and anybody on the outside that's not part of the corporate media, they're fake news. Reality, what people need to understand, it's the mainstream is the fake news, and it's the ones doing it for pennies that are trying to tell you the truth. This is sick. This guy, he's a pedophile. I don't care. He can sue me. He won't because he knows he's a pedophile, and I can't believe they keep making him the victim. Can you imagine? And I hope that they have to answer for this when it all comes out. Can you imagine making a villain like John Podesta the victim when there's tiny little children that have suffered at his hands? Well, I can't wait for Skippy. Oh, he's going to get it.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting that he used the word sinister, the definition of which is giving the impression that something harmful or evil is happening. Look, how, again, this is like Alefantis being rolled out with Megyn Kelly on Fox News for a PR session in which none of the tough questions are ever asked about the emails, about the Instagram feed, about the pictures. Michael, your impression of this so far?
Yeah, I would say, I wear it as a badge of honor. If they call us sinister media, that means we're doing something right. these demoniacs invert reality, and what they call darkness is light, and what is light is darkness. So, a good friend of mine many years ago said the darkness doesn't like the light, and that's what their problem is. They don't want to, deal in reality, and they like to, as many demoniacs do, they like to flip the crucifix upside down. They like to flip reality on its head. They like to call good evil and evil good. So I take this as a badge of honor, and it just shows that we're over the target.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Angela, before we play more of this clip, back to you here. I want your thoughts on hashtag Skippy, which James Woods refers to specifically in his tweet. Put more walnut sauce. Of course, he's referencing the Pizzagate emails and the code words. Put more walnut sauce on your pizza and shut up, Skippy. You're lucky you're not in jail yet. I stress yet. How do we know that Podesta has a secret life or a secret persona in which he goes by the name Skippy?
Oh, well, he actually does. I think it was, oh man, I can't remember. Was it, I won't give a number because I'll be wrong, but it was in the WikiLeaks verified emails several times, like a lot of times, referencing his quote, evil twin, Skippy. I think it was even Huffington Post, maybe, a couple years ago, even wrote a story talking about how John Podesta's evil twin, like his other side to him, goes by Skippy. A video surfaced recently, and you can find it on my friend's Twitter account. It's at her name is SuzyQ, and it really sounds a lot like John Podesta.
You think you're hot shit, don't you? You will call me. You will call me. You will call me. Say it again.
Just get lost. Just get lost.
People can hear even the name Skippy being said. It's hard to hear because this kid is screaming so hard. But then also, you can hear when it sounds like there comes a part where they're doing like a seance, and you can actually hear him say, "I'm John Pod," and he actually stops and then finishes his. That was probably the kicker for me. And when you look at the inside pictures of Comet Ping Pong, they actually match the really unique color scheme of the videos that were, I believe they were leaked, of Skippy, which I think it's Skippy.
Yeah,
I can't say 100%.
There's a reference too in the WikiLeaks emails in which I believe he says still in the torture room, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and in the video you're referring to definitely does seem like it's some sort of psychological torture room, if not physical as well, and there is a child being abused in that video. All right, let's go back to this video clip. Bombshell, John Podesta squirms when he talks about Pizzagate and James Alefantis.
It's a kind of vile stream that's running under the ground that begins to really, I think, have its effect, take its toll, and obviously the worst conspiracies were culminated in the so-called Comet Pizza episode, in which a guy who volunteered to cook at a fundraiser for Hillary, who runs a pizzeria, upscale pizzeria in Washington, D.C., was accused, along with myself, my brother, and others, of running a child sex ring out of the pizza parlor. Mainstream media debunked that instantly.
All right, I'm pausing it right there because now my blood is boiling. Of course, he's talking about James Alefantis, who GQ has named one of the number 49 actually, the 49th most powerful person in Washington, D.C., ahead of so many senators, congresspeople, and other powerful personalities in Washington, D.C. James Alefantis, your thoughts on that, Angela?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, Skippy, you can't even talk, first of all, because you're a liar. And let me clarify for anyone that's kind of skeptic about this. When they're saying debunked, let me tell you how far that debunking goes. And I use that in quotations because it's not debunking. They're simply, these globalist-owned media outlets are just saying it's debunked. If anyone that has looked into it 5 minutes knows there is so much, mountains of damning evidence, and they just flat out say it's been debunked. It's already been debunked. Then they talk about some D.C. police chief saying that he says it's debunked. Then if you look into it, First of all, the police chief never even did an investigation. You go back into his past, he has a history of covering and allowing victims of gang rape, 11-year-old victims of gang rape, to be charged and covering for the pedophiles themselves. This is the same police chief that supposedly debunked this all without an investigation, who just happened to be chummy with James Elefantis. And let me give you one more thing about Comet Pizza that he's talking about. Like you said, it's not an upscale pizza place, first of all. That's a lie. People say their feet stick to the floor. It's disgusting. They have artwork that says "Shut Up" and "F-U-C-K" on the wall. It's not family friendly. You can watch clips being done inside there where this gross person is describing a spirit cooking, talking about, putting a baby down, and other ones where they reference pedophilia in their acts and laugh about it. And you can look at the people who play at this particular joint, and they have pictures. I mean, they're so gross I can't even describe them. They're still on Comet Pizza's site, and they anyway the acts that play music. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm pretty upset over this, but the acts that play at this place are just full of pedophilia and just like really disgusting, disturbing, satanic pictures all over their music videos. Some of them have already been erased off of YouTube because it was so damning. So John Podesta is lying, and he keeps trying to focus on a pizza joint to try to make it seem so bizarre. But it goes a lot further than just a pizza joint, Skippy, and your little stuttering. I can't wait for him to get, I can't wait. No one just emails. No one. Do you email? Do you just simply email about random pizza and walnut sauce every other day? No one does that. It's clearly code.
I feel your anger, and I want to jump in and say I would never email somebody asking them if they think I would do better playing dominoes on pizza or pasta. That makes absolutely no sense unless I was involved in some sort of child sex ring in which those words were used as code words to hide behind. And that's what these WikiLeaks emails, the Podesta emails, are littered with, folks. I know, look, we're probably preaching to the choir. My audience is well-versed on the Pizzagate, Pedagate issue, and I've been saying, and I love your Twitter feed. I think you're just so proficient. Look, you're fighting pedophilia one tweet at a time. That's what you're doing, Angela. And so everybody follow Angela at NotManipulated7. Michael, your thoughts, and I would just say this as it relates to what's going on at Comet Ping Pong. It was very convenient that 28-year-old Edgar Welch decided to take matters into his own hands and go in and quote-unquote shoot up the place. Initial reports were there was only one shot fired. Later on, some testimony said a couple shots. I've heard eyewitnesses say no shots were fired, and the local police are saying that one shot was fired, and conveniently, it hit the hard drive of the shop's computer. So, if there's anything on that computer, certainly it's gone now, thanks to Edgar Welch.
Elefantis says he wouldn't have found anything exciting.
And here is our bags and coat closet. The bullet went into our computer system.
After police arrived, Welch surrendered peacefully.
How convenient, huh?
Very convenient. What I would say is that for anybody that questions whether there's anything with regard to this that is not legitimate, I would only point to the fact that the reality of the FBI confirming that these words and phrases are, they are used by pedophiles, and it's not just the FBI. There are other nations that when they arrest these people that engage in this satanic behavior, do in fact speak in code. So what we need, in my opinion at this point, what needs to happen now is the intelligence people that were kind enough to leak this information to WikiLeaks and then get it into our hands. It has to now go to the next level. And, basically it needs to go through the Justice Department now and others and actually end an arrest. And what I would say the key to that is going to be is that we're dealing with people who are into Aleister Crowley rituals and Satanism, and it's going to take people who believe in Christ, and I understand that not everybody believes in Christ, but for those who do, and those who profess the true faith have to pray and fast for this to come down, because they are using supernatural means to protect themselves. There's a reason why The blindness is on the eyes of the people who watch the corporate whore-dying media and believe it. It's because their grace has not been present for them to see. So on the one side of it, I believe activism is key, but activism has got to be coming from a place of prayer and fasting. And these people are obsessed with blood, and we see that. They want to consume their sacrifices. Well, the blood of Christ is infinitely more powerful than what they are invoking. And that needs to be a key element here for those of us who know that what's going on is to engage in that supernatural spiritual warfare to push this back, because once God opens the door, this is going down, and this is their religion. And there's two keys here. The abortion sacrifice, which abortion is a sacrifice to a demon, and so is this satanic ritual abuse that these people are engaged in. And once God opens the door to defeat them, they're going to fall. But we have to plead for that grace. We have to ask for that grace. We have to fast for that grace. And believe me, that grace is coming. I think we can all feel it. We can all sense it. We know the momentum is on our side. When the media is this afraid, we are the media. These people are our numbers all across the board. If you take your numbers, SGT, you take Joe Rogan's podcast, you take Alex Jones, you take Drudge, you take various Christian websites from all different backgrounds and sources. We are the media, and they know it. So I would encourage people to not allow them to discourage us in any way. We are going to beat them.
Yeah, all right. Well, this is powerful stuff, you guys, and we're going to get back to this Podesta video here in just 1 second. The whole clip is 4.5 minutes, and we're only a minute 45 seconds into it. Remind me later in the broadcast, and I will play a clip for you guys of Hunter S. Thompson, in his own words, saying something that will absolutely shock you. How deep does this stuff go? Hunter S. Thompson himself has been implicated in, allegedly involved in, when he was still alive, the direction of snuff films. And I've got a clip for you that'll help vet that out. I'm working on a micro-documentary, so I'll just give you a sneak peek of that. So let's get back to this Podesta clip.
Out of the pizza parlor, mainstream media debunk that instantly.
I still have some questions about that, by the way.
But you can't pull that back. Yeah. And that ended up with a guy from North Carolina, if I remember right, getting a gun, driving to Washington to do a self-investigation of what was going on in the basement of the pizzeria. I don't think the pizzeria had a basement, by the way, and firing his weapon. So for the employees there, for James Olifantis, who was the proprietor, for people on the in the community, this is a horrifying episode.
Sure.
But it's very hard to pull this stuff back. And Trump peddles it. His people peddle it. Bannon peddles it. Breitbart peddles it.
All right, I got to pause it right there, because when he mentions Breitbart, folks, Andrew Breitbart, who died just about a year after sending out a tweet, I'm going to give it to you from memory here, that the world does not know that John Podesta is a world-class child trafficker, escapes me. And a year later, he was dead. Oh, my God. All right, so I almost need to back that up and watch it again. It makes me so mad. Your thoughts on anything he just said there, Angela?
Yes, I think it's important for people who are silly enough to believe that all of this all comes down to a pizza place, and that an innocent pizza place has, Google, Facebook, Twitter, every single mainstream media outlet, as if that's going to cause censorship. It's been reported how the traffic cameras that faced that area were moved the day before and the day after. I have a tweet that I posted 3 days prior to this incident where I flat out said, pray against any false flag attacks on Comet Pizza that would frame the Pizzagate community to push for censorship. I have the tweet. I said it 3 days before. It happened 3 days after. There are so many connections. I think some people, they found him on IMDb as an actor. Someone else, and now I haven't looked into a couple of these, but I know that a few people have. Some people have said that the guy that was the supposed shooter, that he also was employed at Goat Hill Pizza, which is supposed to be owned by Nancy Pelosi. There's also, there's about 15 different things that smell funny about that. It's clearly a false flag. And, of course, like you said, it conveniently, the one shot that did or didn't happen, hit the hard drive. I mean, people just need to wake up and don't be so silly. And also, what you were talking about with Andrew Breitbart, I actually think the clip where he calls John Podesta out, the video clip, I think that one's even more damning than the tweet.
I agree.
He just flat out looks at him and calls his bluff and says, what's in your closet, Big John Podesta?
This is a concerted effort. This is a concerted effort. Politics of personal destruction. Fuck you, John Podesta.
All right, well, you see where I'm coming from.
Okay, yeah.
When I talk, that's because I'm interested in this ongoing whatever the hell they're doing.
What's in your closet, John Podesta?
Yep.
And then with Andrew Breitbart, I know that right before he died, he was supposed to release a video that was going to expose Obama the next day, and he died that night, and witnesses said he was like blood red, like so blood red, and then the coroner that did his autopsy was actually died before it was like, was it the day he was supposed to release it? And the coroner had arsenic in his blood, but they tried to say that had nothing to do with his death, because most people just, we just eat arsenic for fun.
Yeah, I've been saying for a long time that I think there are hit teams running around in this country suiciding people. And look no further than what happened to the D.C. madam. She had the goods on a whole lot of people in her secret black book, including Cheney and others, and she was going to testify. She was going to blow the whistle on these people in court, and she conveniently hung herself. Even though she was on the Alex Jones show and he asked her, "Are you suicidal? Would you ever kill yourself?" She said, "Absolutely not. All I care about is the truth," and she was dead before she could go to trial. Guys, when we say where there's smoke, there's fire, again, John Podesta won't be held to the fire here. His feet won't be held to the fire to answer any tough questions regarding what's really going on here. Meanwhile, in Manchester, New Hampshire, Alderman Thomas Castiantonis was arrested by local, state, and federal authorities, and he has involvement in at least 2 pizza businesses, one of which is called Zoe's Pizza. The other is called Grand Slam Pizza. And there are pictures of this man, Thomas Castiantonis, with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Again, pizza owners connected to the powerful, and John Podesta wants to write it all off, and he can't answer the fact, why did Besta Pizza have a logo that is widely recognized as being a pedophilic logo, and after Pizzagate broke, they changed their logo? Why did Jake Tapper at CNN, whose wife Jennifer appeared in the Washingtonian, say that their favorite, well, it was Jennifer who said it, their favorite family restaurant is Comet Ping Pong? Their favorite date night restaurant, Bucks, just down the street, also implicated in all of this. It's so stunning, and if it weren't for us in the free media, this step, well, he's right. It is subterranean, because the Mockingbird mainstream media that controls the narrative for the sheeple people will not talk about any of these things that you're hearing us talk about, this breaking news right here and now. Michael, over to you.
What I would say about this is this issue of satanic ritual abuse, pedophilia, child kidnapping rings, and alike is absolutely the key to getting the government back, getting the media back, for those who are in the Catholic Church or for those who are in other groups that are trying to get their institutions back out of the hands of these demoniacs. This issue is how they control them. If you've ever wondered why politicians do things that seem to be so counterproductive to their personal interest at various moments, when just at the right moment, if they did the right thing, sometimes it would benefit them financially or the people would love them, and yet they do things like Lindsey Graham and McCain and various Catholic bishops and other people, and you look at their behavior, and nobody can understand why it is that they make these decisions that are weak or against their own interest. And the reason is because sexual blackmail is the way in which they keep control. So this issue is absolutely key for those who support Trump and want to make America great again. For those who have been in the trenches in the Catholic Church for decades trying to wrestle the church out of the hands of these demons, this is the key. Because if you have a congressman that won't act, or if you have a bishop that won't act, or if you have people that are so weak, effeminate, and ineffective, and you can't understand why, if this is allowed to go full throttle up and down the establishment, the lowest of the low, the highest of the high, if this is allowed, if these arrests are allowed to take place, and this issue is allowed to fully come to light, then the people can free their leaders that aren't part of this nightmare, and put other people in place that are actually virtuous, patriotic people that will then be able to be free. But at the moment, the reason we can't get anywhere, we can't seem to stop abortion even though we have the numbers. We can't seem to stop these illegal wars. We can't seem to get the 9/11 investigation that we want. And we know that we've won. We can feel that we've won. This is the key. If you want your country back, if you want the church back, this is the way to get it. This issue is, we have to have people that are either exposed and arrested or are free to admit the things that they've done publicly if they're not crimes. Like if we have politicians that are secretly homosexual or secretly having other issues, we need to have like a moment where there's amnesty for some things that are not criminal, and let people just basically clear the air, admit why and how they're being blackmailed, and then allow them to be free. And for those who are into this behavior, these people need to go to the deepest, darkest dungeon, get a jury trial, and be hung before the sun goes down, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we'd all agree on that. And I just want to say this as it relates to the blackmail you're talking about. The CIA has a term for that. It's called brownstoning. It is a well-known operation that the CIA has used for decades and decades and decades. And the idea is that they want to appeal to people's base nature. So if you're into hookers, if you're into little boys, like these pedophiles are, they're going to give you whatever you want, and they're going to videotape all of it. And that is exactly what appears to have happened on Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Island. And anybody that wants to deal in facts need look no further than Bill Clinton's trips to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's private island. Okay, guys, so what's going on here is so much bigger than Podesta could ever have the courage to talk about or face in the court of law. Again, a return to rule of law is what saves our nation and puts these people in the dungeon they belong in. All right, well, Angela, did you want to say something before I play this clip?
I wanted to thank Michael for earlier what he said, the point that he said about, because we do not battle against flesh and blood, we battle against spirits. And I just want to reach out to some of my followers, because I have people that follow me from all backgrounds.
Me too.
I just want to actually just reach out to them and tell them to think hard. You know, they've been red-pilled in so many areas, but think hard. Think about the fact that the elite worship Satan. I mean, it's actually been leaking out for years. These people push no God to everyone else, but they worship Satan behind closed doors. And there's only one, and Hillary Clinton is on record for conjuring up spirits, conjuring up dead people, but there's only one person she won't try to conjure up, and that's Jesus Christ. And I just want to point that out because I want people to really think about that. Maybe they can tweet me and give me an answer to why they think that is. But like I said, we've been saying for thousands of years, just straight from the Bible, we battle against flesh and blood. We do not battle against flesh and blood. We battle against spirits. And then what you were saying about this, if people think this is woohoo, they haven't begun to research it yet. You can look at just the cases that were made available to you, like the Franklin scandal, like the Finders, like Jimmy Savile, all of these things, and you will see the same exact story, same exact thing. Elite pedophilia that involved Satanism. And it was, handlers, procuring children for the elite, CIA covering it up, people, big efforts to take documentaries off the air. So I just want to say to anyone that thinks this is woohoo, it's because they have not done any research yet. And there was plenty of cockroaches you were allowed to see. And so then you have to ask yourself, how many cockroaches have we not seen yet?
Yeah, you're spot on, and I want to back you up with facts. You mentioned Jimmy Savile. I have a report here from the BBC, which he worked for decades. His crimes of pedophilia and necrophilia were covered up. He was personal friends of Prince Charles, who wanted to make Jimmy Savile the godfather to his own children. He was knighted by the Queen, and it was widely reported after his death that he was involved in trafficking children to elite in London. And this report from BBC.com says Jimmy Savile victims were laughed at or ignored. Victims of serial sex attacker Jimmy Savile were not believed when they first confided in others, an NSPCC report has found. What groundbreaking news. Thanks, BBC. I mean, honestly, people, if you don't know that what we're talking about is historically factual and on the historical record, then, as Angela said, you haven't done your research. And I would also just say this as it pertains to more breaking news coming from the UK. Sir Edward Heath, who died, of course, in 2005, so now they can tell everybody this because they always pin it on a dead guy. They never say it goes any deeper than this guy. Sir Edward Heath is being accused by children who are now full-grown adults of being involved or heading a satanic child sex cult in which as many as 16 children were murdered. And these children who have now grown up are saying that their own parents were satanic and involved in this same cult. Okay, again, on the record. But as we learned from the Jimmy Savile BBC story here, victims are often laughed at or ignored. Oh, guess what? Not by us. Not by the truth media. They're laughed at and ignored by the mainstream mockingbird, gatekeeper, whore, New World Order media. And that's why we're having this conversation. This is so outrageous. Should we go back to the Podesta clip?
No, I feel you.
All right, let's go back to the Podesta clip.
His people peddle it, Bannon peddles it, Breitbart peddles it. He still calls Alex Jones and talks to him, and the Infowars,
conspiracy
theories. Sandy Hook didn't happen; it was all made up to try to take your guns away. All that stuff exists. You don't see it, you don't feel it if you're largely living in reality and in a mainstream media world. But it's undermining our democracy, and I think that the companies themselves, they've taken some steps. They have a lot of responsibility.
Companies like Facebook.
Google, etc.
Right.
To do what they can to essentially not enhance this, not to create a ecosystem where the fake news it rose up. Somebody did it. I'm blanking on who did it, but they looked at Facebook traffic of the 20 top. I think BuzzFeed did it.
Yeah.
The 20 top political stories in the mainstream media and the 20 top fake news stories that were completely debunked, and found that the likes and shares of the fake news exceeded by 20% the mainstream news. So that's a trend that I think we're now seeing played out in Europe, in the U.S. It's undermining our democracy.
All right, help pause it there. So truth is undermining our democracy. So he's talking about the fake news meme. As our listeners know, in November of this past year, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, came out and said there's no room at Google for fake news. So they're going to change and they have been, they're changing their algorithms. So search words, keywords associated with any of this stuff won't come up. What people are now getting are the returns of the mainstream media's version of those stories first. So for instance, if we know the CDC has been lying about mercury in childhood vaccinations causing autism, we now know that they were covering that information up and they knew it, but they said thimerosal is perfectly safe. That's true news that we want to report and discuss, but Google's going to change the algorithms so that when people want to go and research that, they're going to get the mainstream version of how all vaccines are safe. That's what he's talking about here, and it just shows you guys how the corporatocracy is circling the wagons in order to try to defend itself against truth.
Can I add something?
Please.
When tiny little man John Podesta is speaking and he's pretending to be on a soapbox of, it's true, and people that are in the truth. Let me pull up this email from globalculturalstrategies.com. Sorry, I'm trying to read it. It's real small. To John Podesta, where they flat out say that they want to generally conspire to produce an unaware and compliant citizenry. The unawareness, he said, remains strong, but compliance is obviously fading rapidly. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening right there. This is in John Podesta's own verified emails. They're upset. They're squirming because people are starting to wake up. And he's going to keep on saying, the fake news outnumbered. Fake news is what, like you said, that they're peddling. He's lying. Every time he keeps saying that they've been debunked, people need to understand what debunked they're talking about. They're just saying it. Nothing has been debunked. They've not answered. That's why, like you said, they specifically don't bring up the damning emails. They specifically don't show the damning Instagrams. They specifically don't show the damning ties to a constant inner circle of pedophiles and sex traffickers and known flight logs to an island where child rape happened on camera. They specifically leave out all of these things, and the fact that Laura Silsby Gaylor runs the technology for Amber Alert and was gotten off of sex trafficking charges by none other than Bill Clinton when she tried to traffic kids out of Haiti. They specifically don't bring that up, and they just say things like it's been debunked.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm so glad.
Wake
No,
up, Steve. Wake up.
No, you're spot on, and I was going to mention Laura Silsby again. We deal in facts in the truth media. Now, every now and then we might see code words in WikiLeaks emails from John Podesta that cause us to speculate that perhaps these code words are related to pedophilia, but then we do the research and that we find out the FBI themselves say, yes, these are code words often used in pedophilic circles. These are logos that are often used so that one pedophile can identify another pedophile. So when we deal in facts, those are facts that John Podesta and the mainstream Mockingbird horror media cannot address because it implicates them in either the cover-up or the involvement in exactly what we're talking about, which is in the case of Pizzagate, it's a DC-centric child pedophilia and trafficking ring. But as it pertains to Pedogate and what we're seeing in Belgium, in what we're seeing in the UK, and what we're seeing in Haiti, Pedogate describes the global child trafficking and pedophilic ring. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Ashton Kutcher, who on February 15th went before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and discussed how he is going to help end modern slavery and human trafficking. And Michael, that's one of the reasons you and I connected, because I know you know a lot about this. Angela, I know you're also skeptical about it. How convenient that Ashton Kutcher from Punk'd fame is now going to run to the rescue of all of this. Okay, he's going to run to the rescue of all the children while never mentioning Pizzagate. All right, so let's just listen to this clip. What does Ashton know, and how's he going to help?
I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play. I've been on the other end of a phone call from my team asking for my help because we had received a call from the Department of Homeland Security telling us that a 7-year-old girl was being sexually abused and that content was being spread around the dark web. And she had been being abused and they'd watched her for 3 years and they could not find the perpetrator, asking us for help.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there because there's so much just in that clip that it just defies belief. First of all, the Department of Homeland Security apparently for 3 years didn't want to rescue that girl. That's just a topical observation right off the bat. But number two, why is the government, Michael, reaching out to actor Ashton Kutcher to help them solve the problem of human trafficking?
Great question. So, what do we have here? I'll try to boil it down succinctly as I can. Ashton Kutcher basically appears out of nowhere with this foundation called Thorn. Anybody can pull that up. You put in Ashton Kutcher Thorn into Google or any search engine, and his foundation comes up. What I would encourage anybody to do when they do that is immediately scroll down to the bottom of the page and see who the financial contributors are. And right there from the door, we got to pay attention. This foundation was launched in 2015 with his ex-wife, Demi Moore. Now, Demi Moore, will remember, is a proponent of Kabbalah. She was a member of that temple with Ashton Kutcher that Madonna made famous back in the 90s with the Kabbalah water and the red bracelets, and isn't Kabbalah cool and trendy? And this foundation is created by these two characters and comes up into existence in 2015. In 2015, it's launched, and the funders and the economic backers of it are, some of them I'm going to name: Google, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon. Now, for anybody who's awake, immediately red bells should be going off. Wait a minute, Google is going to help protect the children. Amazon's going to help the children. Yeah. So what they've done is they've created this foundation. They've deployed some form of technology, and this is really what I really want to get out to people who I know are much more, I'm not a computer geek, I'm not really good with a lot of that side of it. I need somebody to break down for us what it is that Ashton Kutcher's foundation has deployed. Because in this hearing in Congress, and now in the real fake news streams, they're saying that this technology that he claims he can't explain to Congress that's been deployed, because you wouldn't want the bad guys to know how the technology works, has rescued 6,000 children already, according to Ashton Kutcher's foundation and fake media. So they claim that they've launched some form of technology. The way he described it made it sound to me like it was some form of AI, where it continuously learns and it enables law enforcement with the help, of course, of, you have to go, now law enforcement is supposedly going to have to go through an NGO to get technology. And that's the real key in his statement. If you think about what his statement was, Homeland Security called Ashton Kutcher. Now that's goofy and stupid on its face, because he's from Punk'd and that 70s show. But it built into that statement is an admission, or not really an admission, but it's being put out there that Homeland Security doesn't have this technology, and the NSA doesn't have this technology. It's coming from the private sector, and that is ridiculous on its face, because we are awake know Facebook and Google was created with CIA money and through front companies and so on and so forth. And the idea that Ashton Kutcher would have some form of technology that's able to bust up the dark web, arrest pedophiles that Homeland Security and the NSA and Interpol can't get their hands on, but Ashton Kutcher can get his hands on these pedophiles. It's goofy and stupid on its face.
Well, let me jump in and say this. So Ashton Kutcher has a net worth north of $150 million, and he's got this venture capital fund. And I don't recall, maybe he was involved in Twitter early on, but I watched a documentary about him once, and I know that he was an early investor in some of these tech companies. So he's got connections to Silicon Valley. He's got connections to these people, Zuckerberg at Facebook. He runs in the circles. There's pictures of him on the internet wearing a Freemason cap. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure if this is part of the revelation of the means, right? Just to say, well, this is who we are and this is what we're doing. I'm a Kabbalist and I'm also a Freemason. But again, he's wearing a Freemason hat. And to your point, how in the world would this foundation of Ashton Kutcher's have secret pedo-catcher technology that the government doesn't have? How in the world would they have technology that's better than what the NSA has? This to me sounds like it's just more of the same, a limited hangout. Right? And they're using Ashton Kutcher to redirect the narrative away from Pizzagate, away from Washington D.C., away from politicians, and out into the dark web, and out into what's going on in what did he say? Indonesia? I forget. But of course, there's child sex trafficking all over the planet. They're going to ignore what's going on right in Washington D.C. Angela, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me make this kind of like in layman's terms for people. Think about this, like what both of you just said. Okay, they are the deep state and the elite. The ones who run the world. They're well aware that the truth is out there already. The toothpaste has already been splatted all out of that tube. They can't put it back in. So what's the next answer? It's to provide an answer, to bring in a supposed outsider. And like you said, when you look at what everything he just said, and the fact that, that he would have some kind of magical technology that the smartest companies on earth don't have, that's their way of, putting up this front like, we're going to bring in an outsider because we know you guys don't trust us. So here's our outsider. But then guess what? You start looking into that outsider and you realize that he's really probably going to be the very next fox in the hen house. I'm not going to accuse Ashton Kutcher, but I am going to say a few things that are a red flag to me. He's an insider in Hollywood, clearly. He's obviously an insider. He's wrapped up in productions and everything else. Okay? He's also an insider when it comes to this technology, supposedly. Okay? He's an insider in two areas that would make him an expert on trafficking. Now, just the citizen investigation that has gone on at Pizzagate, there has been enormous amounts of evidence against Hillary Clinton's foundation, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton's foundation. wrapped up in trafficking. The man supported Hillary Clinton for president. That right there is your first red flag. If he's such an insider and he's so well aware of all this, why would he be supporting Hillary Clinton? And then, like I said, then he blows little kissies to John McCain. None of that makes sense. John McCain's likely, I mean, I'm just guessing, John McCain's probably going to go down with a lot of them. That's why he's smiling. And so just what you guys are talking about, I believe that it's the deep state's answer on the outside to pretend to be bringing in an outsider to help with this situation that they know everyone is aware of. And I believe, Michael, you said one time, you said that, and people don't be so quick to just jump on this because you're so desperate for a celebrity to support the cause, because you might find out that it's just the next Fox, you guys. I mean, that's my gut feeling. And then when you're pointing out the people who are funding it, Google is actively suppressing searches that are exposing this pedophile network. I can't even speak today. And Facebook, Twitter are doing the exact same thing. Twitter was exposed that like 25,000 accounts, I believe, were involved in child porn, which is the rape of a child on camera. And rather than get rid of these accounts, some of them had like 20, I don't remember the number of accounts. It was a lot. It was tens of thousands. And some of these people had 25,000 followers. And rather than these accounts getting suspended, Twitter suspended the person who exposed it. Now, keep in mind, people left and right who have just a conservative point of view are getting their accounts suspended, and they have like 300 followers. There is a problem. And if these are the people that are supporting that technology with Ashton Kutcher, that's another huge red flag, and people need to understand this.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. In the last 10 minutes we have together, and this is the type of breaking news that warrants more discussion. So I'd love to have you guys back on, but I want to play this clip for you before I forget. And it's from the David Letterman show in 1988. I mentioned this earlier in the show. Hunter S. Thompson has been accused of being involved in very nefarious things, including directing snuff films. And his own secretary once said that he tried to force her to watch a snuff film and she refused. This is an appearance of Hunter S. Thompson on the David Letterman show, and I think it will give listeners just another glimpse into how deep this goes and how dark it is. Listen to this.
And,
what do you do for recreation there?
Yeah, that's what I do for recreation. I work.
You ever hike up into the mountains?
Oh yeah, I do that I like to kill.
And when you say kill, you're talking about what, neighbors? What?
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No, but you're teasing when you say you like to kill, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not teasing. No, I used to like to kill. When I realized that I was hunting in order to kill.
You like hunting?
I quit. Well, I did. I quit.
Yeah. But I know that when you...
But I quit because I realized I was not hunting for meat. I was hunting because I like to kill.
Yeah. Have you talked to anyone about this stuff?
All right. I know that that's muddy audio. It's shocking. I know that that's sort of out of the blue here, guys. It comes from a documentary I'm working on. This stuff is just so dark and so nefarious that it defies belief. I think the average person who doesn't know anything about Jimmy Savile, who doesn't know anything about Sir Edward Heath and the accusations against him, who doesn't know anything about the Franklin cover-up, and who doesn't know anything about Pizzagate, can't believe that any of this is true, you guys, and that's the problem.
They love it. Yeah. They love these people. Their deeds are so depraved and dark. They love that just talking about it, it's so evil and wicked and vile that the average person's mind just shuts off. They can't imagine that anyone could ever be that depraved. They love it that because their deeds are so incredibly, insanely evil, that you sound like a cuckoo person by talking about it. They love that. Let me just, it's just like with drugs. You start out with the gateway drugs, the little ones, and then eventually you don't get high off of it anymore, and then you have to move on to something else. And the next thing you know, you're a meth addict and you have no teeth. Well, this is what the elite are like. These people started out just, like regular serial killers, just killed animals maybe when you were young. But now the game is so up there. They actually have hunting parties where they hunt and rape children. They hunt and rape children for fun. Anything that's dark. And the reason that the globalists have handpicked these people over the years, it's not like it was just an overnight thing. The reason they've handpicked the biggest sociopaths is because let me give a quick definition of a sociopath, just a quick one so the person can understand it. A sociopath is void of any kind of a moral guilt for anything, basically. Like a sociopath can kill someone, murder them, and go to sleep that night, and it's the equivalent of you opening a piece of candy, throwing the candy wrapper in the trash. Did you ever think about that candy wrapper again? You didn't. That's what a sociopath can do. They're completely separate from these things that most people would just be up for weeks at a time thinking about. So the reason that the globalists use sociopaths, and the reason they put them in strategic places of power, the ones that will murder and rape a kid for fun, is how else do you get people to invade countries, innocent countries, and allow ISIS to slaughter all the Christians? How else do you allow tens and tens and tens of thousands of people to be murdered in cold blood and their guts spilled out on the sidewalk? How else do you allow that stuff for a pipeline? How else do you allow that because you want to be in charge of their banking? How else do they allow that? They have to have sociopaths in charge, and that's why they use them.
Yeah, amen. These people actually believe that children are disposable, and they use them up and they throw them away. And Michael, so much probably left to talk about the Ashton Kutcher issue. Do you want to just take the last 5 minutes here to round out that part of the conversation?
Yeah, what I would say about the remainder of the key data points on the Ashton Kutcher situation would be this: what is the technology that's been deployed? What are its other potential abuses? Because it very well may be used for the arresting of lower-level pedophiles. So then that would give them a key to protect the higher-level pedophiles while simultaneously tricking the rest of us into seeing in our local news feeds 300 pedophiles arrested today, 200 yesterday, but it's all the local, run-of-the-mill perverts that would be rounded up, and then it would give the appearance of doing something about the problem, but not the reality of it. So, but that would be one thing I would say is we have to find out what this technology is, and then what else can it be used for? Could it be used for in the future if it can round up pedophiles today, it can round up Second Amendment people tomorrow, it can round up Christians tomorrow. We don't know what it is. So we have to first of all, we have to figure out what this is that's been deployed, and then figure out, how to protect ourselves from abuses of new rollouts of technology. The other thing I would say is the supernatural side of this cannot be downplayed at all. And there's a reason, like Angela said earlier, they teach the masses to be agnostic and atheistic while simultaneously invoking demons and living in the supernatural. So the key here is to begin to reintroduce, in my opinion, the reality of original sin in mankind and what that means on a daily basis, and then also reintroduce to the people as much as possible the supernatural means to defeat these people, because you cannot beat supernatural demons with natural means. We have to use supernatural means. And what I would say, though, is clearly the connection to Freemasonry and Kabbalah are key, because that is what they're admitting it now.
Yeah.
We know that this stuff is where we are, where the battle lines have been drawn. It's a battle between Christ and Satan. And for a lot of people that are truthers, they've been programmed by David Icke and others to think that Jesus is just part of the Matrix. I'm sorry, that's false. I understand why people fell for the Zeitgeist movies. I understand why a lot of that stuff made sense at the time. But the reality of the situation is we're dealing with satanic sects that are sacrificing and abusing children to get power from demons. So that's just the objective reality, and there's no way around it. So if you're a truther, if you've been a libertarian, or if you've been in these other circles, if you want to beat these people, you have to relook at those issues. Now, the other thing that, before we go, that's key is John McCain also has a foundation, and John McCain is completely in bed with this Ashton Kutcher issue. They've been pictured together. It was brought before a committee that McCain was on. We have to start to also look into McCain's foundation, because some of the members of McCain's foundation are extremely troubling characters as well. There's a member of the Rothschild family on the board of directors of McCain's Foundation. There is General Petraeus is on the board of directors of McCain's Foundation. We also have dual citizen Joseph Lieberman. So we got problems with McCain that go deeper than what we realize. I mean, we have to realize it's John McCain who wanted the Syrian war, funded Al-Qaeda, which became ISIS, which then pushed all of the people out of Syria into the arms of the human traffickers. And now John McCain and Ashton Kutcher are presenting themselves as the savior of children. So there are data points that we who do research have to get into, and the nexus between this thorn and the McCain Foundation. There's a lot there, and then how this plays into how we get the higher levels arrested. I mean, we want to see, of course, every pedophile arrested, everybody who would abuse children arrested, but we cannot allow them to feed us this situation where they arrest the lower level and then allow the higher level to continue to operate. We can't let that happen this time.
Yeah, 100% agree, and I think you're spot on. And I would just say this as it relates to spiritual warfare in the satanic elite, that I do believe are doing exactly the things you describe. In my research on that Hunter S. Thompson video I'm working on, I learned about adrenochrome, which was a drug that he sought that's taken from the gland of a person. Adrenochrome is a drug that causes a supreme high in people who are being tortured. And commonly, that's what happens in these satanic rituals in which people are gutted, and the people that gut them bathe in the blood, consume the flesh. I know that's disgusting, guys, but if it's not exactly what's happening, then why in the EU, in the capital really of the EU in Brussels, did these murals appear on the sides of two buildings overnight? One depicting a man ready to butcher a small child, and the other depicting a body hanging upside down, gutted, just like we saw in the film Hostel 2, which, by the way, has ties to Lionsgate and Frank Giustra and funneling money to the Clinton Foundation, as George Webb has reported. The rabbit hole runs deep, and the deeper you go, the scarier it gets, because at the very bottom is a beast, and these people are worshiping that beast. Michael, before we go, can you tell people how they can follow you in social media, or how they can contact you, or how can we just stay up to date on what you're doing?
Anybody can message me through. I don't usually keep a very high social media presence. I deleted my Facebook for personal reasons, just because it was not good for me. But I would say that my PL Colby YouTube channel, anybody can message me through there. I would say anybody that's also researched these issues can look up the Fatima Center on YouTube, and also look up, as I guess you had on Tradcat Night. There is a Catholic movement that is part of this movement here to regain our country and regain the world. And very often those voices have not been heard with the same frequency as some of the other voices have been heard. So I would just say I can be found on YouTube, and anything that I can do to assist to overthrow the kingdom of Satan and bring in a reign of Christ the King, I'm here, and I'll do anything I can.
All right, thank you, Michael. And your YouTube channel is P.O. Colby, Kolby?
P-I-O-K-O-L-B-Y.
Very good. And our friend Pizzagate, Angela. Oh, my God, I love you, Angela. Thank you so much. How do people follow you?
I feel the same. It's completely mutual.
All right, tell people how they can follow you and keep up to date on your great work.
I'm at NotManipulated7 on Twitter, which you'll find if you look up the name Pizzagate Angela. And let me just add real quick, because I just want to add this. I completely agree with every single thing that both of you have been saying. But let me also add that it's time for people to stand up against these things. You know, when the Clinton Foundation is basically getting pummeled, it's going to be closed. If not, I know that they've already closed the Global Initiative, I believe. But they now suddenly the Obama Foundation pops up. People, look into that. It's just the other side of a coin. It's the exact same thing, probably, my guess. And then another thing is, this is brand new news as well, that Jill Biden has been named the board chair for Save the Children. Jill Biden. And if she's really cares about saving the children, she'd take them away from her husband as he fondles them live on television all the time. And if he's doing that on television, what's the man doing behind closed doors? I think we need to stop We need to investigate every one of these children's organizations. Some of them are good, I believe, but we need to look into them and see who's running them. And when it's a sketchy connection, we need to investigate and we need to demand. We don't need to sit back and allow these people to have the Fox and Hen House connection. We need to say no. I'm not going to allow this corrupt politician to be in charge of another child organization when they have too many history of flying to a rape island. We need to stand up and we need to actually speak out. And I agree, we need to pray. We need to pray big time because it's a battle. I began praying 2 years ago. I'm going to sum this up in like 5 seconds, I promise. 2 years ago when I heard, I think it was when Corey Feldman was talking about the Hollywood circle, I began praying for God to rip the blinders off people's eyes. I prayed for him to take down that ring, but I never knew. Fast forward to now, I never knew how deep the hole went. I never knew how widespread that was. I didn't realize that it was so global and just insanely evil. And so I know that God is answering prayers, and I pray that everyone will join in with us in prayer, fasting, and spreading awareness, because the awareness that's being spread on social media is a huge also contributor to why victims are now speaking out, why they're demanding Prince Charles turn over his letters to a pedophile, I think it was a cardinal. This is why, because the prayers of the righteous have availed much, and they also, all of this being shined right on these cockroaches, it's taken away their power, and it's allowing victims now to have the voice that they never had.
Amen. I can't sum it up any better than you just did. You guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
And Angela, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If this resonated with you, please do share it within your own social circles. Give it a like on YouTube and spread it around. We very much appreciate your support at sgtreport.com. Check us out at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com for real news 24/7. And please follow me on Twitter at sgtreport. Have a wonderful week. God bless.
We have a major milestone coming within the chaos of this summer. There's going to be a prominent death within the community of abusers that will occur sometime, according to our data sets, before mid-June. And that's not the break, okay? That's just going to be a big gasp for everybody because it's going to hit them at a huge level emotionally.